Hey guys, this is Kevin again, and I decided for this video I'm going to respond to a question, or the first question that has been asked here in the series on being an expat in the Philippines. And someone asked me, is it cheaper to rent or buy in the Philippines? Talking about housing. And so I'll give you some different thoughts on that. First of all, if you're a foreigner, if you are not a citizen of the Philippines, you are not allowed to own land, and that is the law there. And now, as far as condominiums go, you can own those because it's a unit within an existing property. So even as a foreigner, you can buy a condominium. But as far as like a house and lot, you are not going to be able to do that legally. What most guys do is if they have decided to live in the Philippines long term, and if they have a Filipino wife, then what they'll do is buy the property and just put it in her name. So that's kind of how that usually works over there. So what do I think about buying versus renting in the Philippines? I would say I would not buy property, even a condominium, in the Philippines unless you are absolutely certain that you want to live in that specific place, in that specific house or apartment or condominium for the rest of your life. That's the way I see it. Others may disagree with me on this, and that's fine. But I'll give you some of my reasons for this. First of all, if you think about it, imagine you hastily buy a house somewhere in the Philippines, and then you learn that there's something about the location that you were not aware of. Imagine you find out that your neighbors burn trash 24/7, so there's smoke coming into your house all the time. Or imagine that uh, your neighbors like to do videoke or karaoke at 3 a.m. every morning. There are issues like that if you have bought that property and it's yours, you may be stuck fighting that battle for the rest of your life. And so that's one thing to consider. It's why I would not be hasty about buying something. I'll share even a little bit about my own story. I was in Manila for about let's see, about 9 years when I lived in the Philippines. I lived in the capital city, and I did kind of reach a point where I was thinking about, I've mentioned that rent is expensive there, and I started thinking, I'm spending thousands of dollars a year and nothing really to show for it. Should I buy a condominium? And I did think about that, but I would say within 2 years of thinking about that, I ended up making the decision to move to Angeles City, which turned out to be some of the happiest times I had in the Philippines because my wife and I met and married soon after I moved there. But anyway, the idea is, since I was just renting, as soon as my lease was up, I could get up and move. And the time that I chose to move to Angeles City, my rent had been up for a couple of months, and it worked out really well. But if I had owned that condominium, then I would still be kind of stuck there making payments. So that's why I'm saying, don't be hasty about the decision to buy something in the Philippines. Now, another thing to keep in mind, here in the U.S., if you buy a house, generally speaking, okay, this is in general terms, there's a reasonably good chance that once you decide to move elsewhere, that you can sell that house. Now, even that doesn't always work, as you know. I've known of more than one person that's making payments on their house. They end up moving somewhere else for another opportunity, and then they end up paying on two houses for an extended period of time. I've known of people who've had to file bankruptcy and stuff over that issue. But in the Philippines, I'm not saying this to be disparaging about the country at all, but if you think about the economic situation there and the number of people who are just, you know, uh, struggling to survive, for many people there, the idea of being able to buy property is not even on their radar. Now, how that could affect you is if you buy something, if you buy a condominium or if you buy a house, you don't really have a guarantee that somebody else is going to buy that off of you if you decide that you want to be somewhere else. And again, I do not have any personal experience with that, but I am just guessing that that's a real challenge, selling property that you no longer want. That's just my guess, and I'm guessing and I'm thinking that it's a really good guess. So back to what I was saying earlier, I would not buy property in the Philippines unless you are absolutely certain that you want to live in that particular location, or you want somebody in your family to live in that particular location for life. That's just kind of the way I see it. Now, there are people who are in that situation and do buy property for that reason, and they seem to be happy with it. When I lived in Angeles City, I lived in the Diamond subdivision, and there was a guy kind of a little bit down the street from me, an older gentleman, that I saw all the time. He would come out and walk, or if I happened to be taking my laundry to get washed and I would see him, I would wave at him and talk to him. And I remember he told me, I think he had done some renovation on the house, and I was talking to him about it, and he told me that he was really happy that he bought that house because once he's gone, his wife would have it. His wife would have something, property there in the Philippines that she could live in, and he seemed really happy with that decision. So I'm not saying that it's bad to buy something in the Philippines. I'm just saying make sure you have a really seriously long-term plan for whatever it is you're going to buy. Otherwise, you may find that it's not a wise decision financially. So those are my thoughts on renting versus buying in the Philippines. And if you have another question, feel free to make a comment below, and I'll do my best to answer it.